Scott Talley here, and I'm at the worldwide headquarters in Houston, Texas of Network in Action. And Gwen, my friend and ghostwriter. Gwen, I don't even know where you are in the world. You used to be in Tennessee, didn't you? Where are you now?
I'm in Alabama. Yep, I moved around a lot and settled.
Over. And Gwen is about to get her master's degree. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Working hard on that. And we're going to talk a little bit about Network in Action. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Gwen.
Yes, thank you so much, Scott. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I love everything that you are doing with Network in Action and the difference that it's making, obviously, in the business community. So I had a few questions. So when you are looking at doing this book project, you have gotten together some amazing leaders who are leading amazing groups of people. And one of the things that we're seeing is that each leader, you've asked these leaders often the same questions and getting vastly different answers. So I wanted to ask you, how does the differences in the answers to the same questions, how does that kind of signify what the value is of NIA?
You know what? That is so spot on, because I think what it speaks to is the amount of flexibility people can have with this franchise. So what do I mean? Some people, like Dan Fetch, we just spoke with, still has a full-time job, and his ultimate goal is to segue out of that job and be the king of his own kingdom and have multiple Network in Action franchises. And he's getting there really quickly. We've had a number of people who did that. Then we have another probably third of the franchise owners or more who want to supplement their existing business with networking. So they create another revenue stream, and they keep their coaching practice or whatever they might have, and they're building their coaching practice by running the networking group and creating another revenue stream. And then we have people who say, you know what, I know this is what I want to do with my life, and they jump off full time. And so each one of them have a different, come from a different place, and yet they can all be successful. And before I take the next question, it's crazy. We have probably 20 business coaches. We probably have another 20 people that own their own businesses, various types of businesses, and come from really successful backgrounds. We have 5 PhDs, 2 attorneys, 2 Navy SEALs, and a Marine fighter pilot. I mean, I'm managing or getting the privilege of working with some really incredible people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. And I know one of the things that you've talked about a lot is the value of a mastermind, and having that be kind of part of being built into this model of being able to get with other business owners, working with these leaders to get this experience of a mastermind. So can you tell me a little bit more about why that mastermind experience is so valuable, and also how getting the feedback from so many leaders in one place in this book kind of signifies that?
Yeah, so it sort of happened by accident. After about 15 or 16 months of running a group myself, I went home and I told my wife, these people are so close, they love each other so much, we don't have to focus on networking or building relationships, but I don't think we can sustain just being a wine club. We got to do something. So I introduced the mastermind, and then it dawned on me that if you think about the military, when they send someone into training, they go through exercises together to build camaraderie and to build, the connection. And so when we're going through these exercises each month with our members together, and we're delving into the problems in our business and, our sadness and our struggles and our successes, all of a sudden it connects people so much deeper. And then the last thing I would add is there's so much talent in the room. Maybe I'm struggling with the financial part of my business, but somebody's there to help me who's experienced it before. Or maybe, I'm good at marketing and somebody's really struggling, and I can help them by telling the mistakes I've made. So by bringing people together and working on these different pieces of business that nowadays is so much more complicated than the old days, you've got a team of people on your payroll, sort of, and it works great. And that's where the mastermind and benchmarking came from.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what would you say to somebody who feels like they understand the value of masterminding, the value of networking, but maybe feel limited in their area. So maybe somebody who feels like, okay, I get it. Maybe if I was in a bigger city or a more populated area or somewhere that maybe was a little more progressive, I could see the value of networking. But where I live, that's probably not going to be much of a value. There's no point. What would you say to somebody in that situation?
Well, the world has gotten much smaller. So number one, if you're the kind of person like in your industry, you could work with someone to write a book anywhere in the world. So you would be a great candidate to join one of our virtual networking groups that's across state lines and now internationally. We have a member from China and Australia, and about to start in Israel and South America. So if you're a business that can work anywhere, then join one of our virtual groups. And we're leading that whole revolution in the online space of just having virtual groups across state lines. We won't sell a franchise in an area that's too small to be successful. So that protects not only the franchise owner, but also any member from joining some little area and not getting value. But I would say this to anyone who thinks they don't have something to offer, you just have to let the magic happen. All of us have gifts. All of us have strengths and weaknesses. And you may not even know what value you bring until you're there. And all of a sudden the light bulb goes off that there's something you can do to help other people. And there's not a better feeling in the world.
Right. Yes. One of the themes that I've seen, in reviewing the interviews that have come in from your leaders are those surprises, the members that they thought wouldn't be able to get value because maybe their ticket item was too high or their personality was different. But then to see how their ROI was still there and all of these amazing things. It's been so interesting to see how they've had those surprises. What has been something that has surprised you, like something or a person or a group that was successful beyond what you anticipated because of what you perceived to be limitations, where maybe those limitations actually was, what positioned them for that success?
You know what surprised me, Gwen? I can't even, it's just how blessed I am to be doing this at this point in my life. I feel like everything I've ever done has prepared me for this, but every day I wake up, I get on LinkedIn or Facebook and I see one story after another daily. I'm telling you, there's not a day goes by that there's not some story of someone around the country having success by connecting with other people through their network and action franchise owner. So the surprise has come in that it's not about referrals. We join these networking groups to get referrals and to grow our business and to move the needle on the bottom line. And that's happening. But all the other things that happen, all the other things, the support, the people getting, maybe your next door neighbor's child is looking for a job and all of a sudden somebody in the network and action group steps up and helps them find a job, or someone needs a piece of equipment that they don't know where to go get it. So people join network and action for the referrals, but they stay for the business solutions. And whether that's coming through our electronic properties that we offer business owners the ease to go find, or whether it's the quality of the people in the room. But if you put a need out there, I can't remember the last time we weren't able to fulfill that need for a member.
That's amazing. That's really amazing.
I mean, we've had people get married. We've had people buy each other's businesses. We've had people gain employment. We've had people who were fired and the next day they're working. We had new companies who join and they're like using their last marketing dollars, and all of a sudden the same month or 2 months later they get a nice deal and they're off and running. And it's incredible the life I'm leading just reading these stories.
That's really awesome. So one of the things that you've also brought up several times is this idea of the abundance mindset. I know that each group is exclusive to each category, but then there are all of these events that often are blending the groups together. Your leaders are getting on calls together and doing these things. So how does that abundance mindset help to create the culture of NIA?
Well, it's paramount. When you look at the history of this industry, it is definitely not an abundance mindset. It is extremely territorial. You can join one group and one group only. You can only be a member of a group that's industry exclusive. And I say to people, there's no one networking group that can give anyone all the business they need. So we believe that if you're building your network, wherever that is, the Chamber of Commerce, another networking group, through your college alumni, if you're building your network, you have more value to bring to the group. So the last thing we want is scarcity mindset. And it drizzles down all the way to the person we bring on, because first of all, our franchise owners don't have a scarcity mindset. If they do, they don't have it for very long. So therefore, the people they recruit don't have a scarcity mindset. All of a sudden, I challenge any business owner to tell me where they can go to be in a room once a month with people who really love them and care about them and are being held accountable to take some action, that all have an abundant mindset. Can't find it anywhere.
Mhm.
Doesn't exist.
That's amazing. Yes, and I see how that's definitely been one of the most powerful parts of what you're doing. So with that, you have also talked, the way that you phrase the way that the franchise owners come on, you talk about them being rewarded their franchise. So what is the process? I know for each member you do a background check, and they're kind of the group leaders are meeting with the members, and before they come on, they have to kind of go through, a little bit of an application period. So how do you decide whether or not someone is a right fit for a franchise or not?
Yeah, so that's evolved over the last 8 or 9 years, but certainly we're pretty good at it today. We have very few people who get into this that aren't successful. We have some, and usually it's some kind of lifestyle change that dictates that. But I look at a number of items. It always helps if someone has owned a business before, or their family they know a little bit about entrepreneurship. It may or may not help if they have some sales skills. But what's interesting, Gwen, is at the end of the day, it comes down to two things and two things only. So I have people on every spectrum of the disc profile, high C's and high I's, completely different engineer types and salesy types like me. They're both wildly successful if they truly care about helping other people. They have a servant mentality, and if they'll follow the model. So sometimes people are very entrepreneurial and they get a franchise and they're the worst candidates because they want to go do things their own way and they're creative, and that doesn't make a very good candidate. We're not unlike Chick-fil-A, where Chick-fil-A tells you what type of potato to fry, what grease to use, and what temperature, and you do it and you get the same result all over the country with a good waffle fry from Chick-fil-A. We're the same way. If you follow our model and your heart's in the right place, we can show anyone how to do this.
I love that. And you've also demonstrated that even though you have that model that will kind of guarantee really the success and the rollout of the program, you've also left so much room for the group leader to bring their particular talents and processes that they can add to what you've done.
Absolutely. My job is a little different than the traditional franchisor. I protect our brand, and I encourage and support, and I make sure that people are sort of staying somewhat inside the box, but that's a big box. And I want to work with intelligent people who can bring their gifts to this business community. So that's part of the vetting that you asked about earlier, is if I can see a person and their strengths and what they can bring. And they may not be a business coach. I love the interview I did with Dan. He knew nothing about networking, and he had never run a small business, but he's one of the most dynamic leaders we have. Marine pilot, has led men before. Heart is absolutely in the right place, and he's just loving life, helping people.
I love that. So even though you're giving the instruction manual on how to make that waffle fry, the grease at a specific temperature, you're leaving the instruction only. You've kind of identified those key areas where that kind of instruction is needed for the model to work, but left enough room for the rest of the box for them to come in and fill it with.
That's right.
That's really awesome.
And they're all on the same pages. We know that at a monthly meeting, as long as there's movement, there's action, and the people leave there with an added value, it's been a good meeting. And that's what we strive to do every single month.
Right. And I love that. And I see that, going back to the idea of the abundance mindset, you're not territorial about the other ideas, as these entrepreneurs, as these franchise owners are coming in with the ideas of how they've kind of filled out the other box with their own strategies, you kind of celebrate that and say, share it with the group, and not trying to, well, don't do it because that's not our way, or, so you have celebrated and shown obviously that abundance mindset as you've made room for those other parts of the
That's right.
box. That's amazing.
It makes me feel really proud that you recognize that, just reading and hearing from other franchise owners, because that's absolutely what we're about.
Right. Right. I love that. I think that's amazing. So that is the end of the questions I have prepared, except for one final question, which is, what is the question I haven't asked that I should have?
Wow. Well, I would just say that anyone that's looking to own their own business today probably has one of three priorities, or some combination of all three. And that's quality of life and controlling their time and their schedule, which is usually why people start a business. Obviously, the ability to create an income stream that's commensurate with how much work you're putting in and be able to control that a little bit. And the third thing is, am I waking up doing what I want to do every day? And that's become more and more important after COVID. And that's one of the reasons I've started many of these franchise owners. I've asked that question, and I think you'll see that our franchise owners are really happy. They're really enjoying what they're doing. They love helping people. They see the ability to control their income. I can go have a cup of coffee with you, Gwen, and if you decide to join, I've impacted my financial family's well-being, and I can do that in 20 minutes if I'm just willing to go meet people. And we encourage vacations. We have little contests to see who's going on the next vacation, and we celebrate that. So we have people who just all over the world, from Dubai to Spain to Iceland to Hawaii, to the trips this year that I'm just remembering off the top of my head are incredible, that our franchise owners are taking, and we celebrate those. So if you get your group up and running and you finish your meetings on the second week of any month, you've got 3.5 weeks where your business doesn't need a whole lot of your attention, as long as you have a smartphone. And so a lot of franchises talk about making a difference. I saw an ad the other day where it says, buy our franchise and make a difference. And I scrolled up and it was a haircutting place. And I'm like, okay, so that's a buzzword. But because of our community service projects going on every 4 days now all around the world, people are passionate about helping others, and they can really make a nice income on a minimal investment, and they can control their time. And I don't know how you get a better life than that.
That's awesome. That's extremely inspiring.
Awesome. Thank you.